An 18-year-old boy from a slum is on trial for allegedly stabbing his father to death. If there is any reasonable doubt of his guilt, they are to return a verdict of not guilty. A guilty verdict will be accompanied by a mandatory death sentence. The jury retires to a private room, where the jurors spend a short while getting acquainted before they begin deliberating. It is immediately apparent that the jurors have already decided that the boy is guilty. They plan to return their verdict without taking time for discussion. The rest of the film's focus is the jury's difficulty in reaching a unanimous verdict. Juror 8 maintains that the evidence presented in the case is circumstantial. He calls into question the accuracy and reliability of the only 2 witnesses to the murder. Juror 8 reluctantly agrees that he has only succeeded in hanging the jury. He requests another vote, this time by secret ballot. The secret ballot is held, and a new not guilty vote appears. This earns intense criticism from Juror 3. Juror 8 presents a convincing argument that one of the witnesses, an elderly man, could not have heard the voices as clearly as he had testified due to an elevated train passing by. Juror 5 changes his vote to not guilty. Jurors 5, 6 and 8 question whether the witness had a stroke, limiting his ability to walk. Juror 8 concludes that, judging from what he claims to have heard earlier, the witness must have merely assumed it was the defendant running. The jury finds that the witness would not have made it to the door in enough time to see the killer running out. Jurors 2, John Fiedler, and 6, Edward Binns, also decide to vote not guilty, tying the vote at 6-6. Soon after, a rainstorm hits the city, postponing the baseball game for which Juror 7 has tickets. Juror 4, for example, Marshall, continues to state that he does not believe the boy's alibi, which was being at the movies with a few friends at the time of the murder. Juror 8 explains that being under emotional stress can make you forget certain things, and tests how well Juror 4 can remember the events of previous days. Juror 2 calls into question the prosecution's claim that the accused, who was 5 feet 7 inches tall, was able to inflict the downward stab wound found on his father. Juror 5 explains that he had grown up amidst knife fights in his neighborhood. This revelation augments the certainty of several of the jurors in their belief that the defendant is not guilty. Juror 7 changes his vote just so that the deliberation may end, earning him the ire of Jurors 3 and 11. Juror 11, an immigrant who has repeatedly displayed strong patriotic pride, presses Juror 7 hard about using his vote frivolously. Jurors 3, 4 and 10 were the only dissenters from the 9-3 vote. The next jurors to change their votes are Jurors 12 and the jury foreman, Martin Balsam. Juror 4 points out that the woman who saw the murder from her bedroom window across the street, through the passing train, still stands as solid evidence. Juror 12 changes his vote back to guilty, making the vote 8-4. Juror 8 cannily asks Juror 4 if he wears his eyeglasses to sleep, and Juror 4 admits that he does not wear them. Nobody does. Then Juror 9 realizes that, like Jurors 4, the woman who allegedly saw the murder had impressions in the sides of her nose which she rubbed, indicating that she wore glasses. Jurors 12, 10 and 4 all change their vote to not guilty. Juror 3 gives a long and increasingly tortured string of arguments, ending with, "Rotten kids, you work your life out." Juror 3 finally loses his temper and tears up a photo of himself and his son, then suddenly breaks down crying and changes his vote to not guilty, making the vote unanimous. All of the jurors descend the courthouse steps to return to their individual lives, never to see each other again. As the jurors leave the room, Juror 8 helps the distraught Juror 3 with his coat and a show of compassion. There is no indication nor is the question ever answered if the teenage boy really is guilty or not. If the jurors cannot be certain that he is guilty, if there is any reasonable doubt, they must acquit him. Must acquit him. Must acquit him. Must acquit him. Must acquit him.